Hey guys, welcome back to the Friday Vlog, where we discuss activity that goes on here with the BuzWeaver channel. That includes things like current events, headlines that are in the news, pop culture, social media, technology, and just items of interest that come up during the week that allow us to have a little bit of a dialogue. If this is your first time here, I'd like to welcome you here, as well as returning visitors and subscribers. I want to thank all you guys for your continued support. In gaming news, this week on Monday, I released the community news out of Infinity Ward and/or general community news as I cover just some of the topics that go on with the game from last week and into this week. If you guys want to check that out, of course, you can do so up there in the top right-hand corner. As of this Friday, and of course the video release date, our governor here in the state of Georgia is entering into phase one to kind of open up the state. Now, all throughout the week, this has been pretty much in the headlines and in the 24-hour news cycle, at least from CNN. Their former headquarters were here in Atlanta, but they still have a facility here in Atlanta. So they've been doing a lot of the coverage of this opening, as well as our local news, of course. And there are levels of concern. Now, the president has left it to the states, to the governors to decide how they want to open up the states. Now, of course, President Trump is getting a great deal of criticism, at least from his detractors, of course, and maybe some of those who are concerned. But the thing is, our country runs on an economy. I understand we are a constitutional republic with a Bill of Rights. I totally get all of this information. It's understandable. I can't really say that I am torn, but I do understand the importance and the significance of the economy, and I also know the importance and significance of having a healthy citizenry that can work in that economy. So I would just say this to all those who are concerned. If you're going to go ahead and go about your business, just take personal responsibility for yourself, because whether we're under a pandemic or not, people are always going to do what people are going to want to do. So you have to look after yourself, be cognizant of yourself. And these are just things that we have always known and have tried to practice throughout our days anyway, and that is not to allow others to affect our behavior and how things turn out in our lives. So I would say this: if you are one of those concerned people, one of my fellow Georgians who is concerned, or if you're in another state, I would just say, take responsibility for yourself. Wear a mask, wear gloves, take the precautions that are necessary. If you want to wait to get your hair cut, your nails done, go to the gym, massage therapist, those sorts of things, go to the bowling alley. Bowling alley, okay. But, you know, everybody has their level of entertainment. I'm sure all those gym rats out there that are, particularly those on Instagram, are going to be loving going back. But again, I'm not really certain how eager people are to really kind of jump into this. But the thing is, we have choices, and you can choose to not be out doing the things that are going to be open. It's totally understandable. Now, keep in mind too, there are a lot of essential businesses that have been open, that have stayed open. So there's a lot of businesses that have been open during this time. Of course, the media focus on those that have been closed, of course, but it's going to be difficult to say how they're going to introduce, say, like restaurants and those, because those, of course, were not on the list. Any place of social gathering, but gyms, for example, obviously people are interacting with one another, and you know, hair salons. I know a lot of the nail or the women out there that are concerned about having their nails done. Are you going to be able to keep certain levels of distances? Are people going to be able to practice responsible social activity is really the question. And I think at a point that people are really I think the whole attitude is that there's certain levels of trust within individual people as to whether or not our government and president and so forth are capable of giving us correct information on whether it is time for us to do this or not. So there's a level of distrust among the citizenry. There's levels of distrust among citizens about other citizens not maybe being responsible. So it's going to be a very interesting introduction as to how all of this is going to unfold. But as of this Friday, the state of Georgia will be entering into phase one, and I'll post some links for you guys down there below the video. Two additional huge topics this week as well. Starting on Monday night, the president has suspended and/or halted immigration to the United States in an effort to stem the pandemic. So on the one hand, he's criticized for not acting early enough when he suspended travel from China, then Europe, and then the UK. And now he's going to halt and/or suspend immigration. Of course, he received a great deal of criticism from the Democrats as well as from the media, which is to be expected, claiming that he is xenophobic. This is the same exact language that was used when he suspended travel from China, Europe, and the UK when they said he wasn't acting soon enough. If you've been watching the press briefings, you can see that the president has had to show videos demonstrating that he has taken the action that was necessary, and he had taken that action very early. And of course, the media is always trying to find ways to undermine the president, catch him in some form of contradiction, divide him and his team to then be able to separate the two, because they can't have the president agreeing with his task force, because then that adds legitimacy of it. As a matter of fact, if you ever watch the demeanor of the reporters as they ask questions to the president versus when they ask questions to Dr. Fauci or Dr. Birx, you can see the difference in their demeanor as they have to, it's almost as if they have to attack the president for points for their particular team, as though it's a sport. And so they try to have to, entrap the president. But nonetheless, he is taking yet another type of action to be able to protect the United States. Now, as we discussed with Brian Kemp in the first segment, Americans are always going to be asking themselves, when is the right time for action to be taken? And of course, when you're the Monday morning quarterback, when you're sitting on the sidelines on the outside looking in, it's easy to be a critic. It's easy to say, if the president says this, then we'll say that. If the president does this, then we'll do that. So there's not going to be any level of satisfaction when it comes from the media or the Democrats. Now, the second part of this, it looks like the White House, Congress, and the Democrats are going to be able to work out a deal to help small businesses. Now, I saw a post from a former individual that I used to work with and work for, who was suggesting that the money had run out for small businesses. And so, of course, this was being actually held up in the House. So it's important to note here that despite whatever particular party affiliation you have, it's important to have the intellectual honesty to know what your party is doing and say, hey, my party is doing this and is responsible for this, as opposed to, and I'm not saying this individual did this, but I'm just saying to just blame the president for everything that's going on is understandable from a generalized point of view, considering that detractors have been doing this. This is their opportunity. This is their platform to go after the president as well. But nonetheless, it looks like a deal is being worked out in the amount of $310 billion. And that money will also go to hospitals and other areas that the Democrats insisted happen. And it makes sense in some instances why that money would be diverted. But nonetheless, it's important to remember where these diversions, where these stops, why these things are taking place, and have the intellectual honesty to understand why governors, why the president, and why decisions are being made the way that they are. But nonetheless, guys, I will post links to that information below this video so you guys can check it out. And that's going to wrap it up for this Friday vlog. I want to thank all you guys for your continued support. If you are watching this on DTube and BitChute, I would ask you guys to give me a follow there as well. And if you are here on YouTube, of course, appearing there on the screen, that would be the channel icon to subscribe. And I would encourage you guys to click that notification. That way you guys will know when the Friday vlogs are available, which incidentally is always on Fridays, and when there's additional content here on the channel. And I will see you guys right there behind the camera next week.